But at the same time, at the administrative level, they have been feeling extreme amounts of pressure to, one, stay on the schedule that has been publicly announced, something that they have fallen behind in several times. They have been criticized in the media. They have been criticized in Congress somewhat because they have not been able to maintain the schedule that they announced. However, you have that conflict. You have the conflict where the officials at NASA feel the pressure and are urging everything to go ahead, but they're urging everybody to go ahead with all deliberate speed, but all safety first. And the theory has always been that NASA is a very conservative organization, and if it comes down to violating any safety rules or regulations, they're not going to do it. They're going to say, we'll take the heat from the public, we'll take the heat from the media and the Congress or anyone else who's providing the funds or is looking at the program, but we want to have safety first. So you really have sort of almost a catch-22 situation, Dan, in that, yes, they're feeling a lot of pressure, but at the same time, safety is uppermost, and safety is the #1 concern always at NASA.
Unfortunately today, safety as the #1 concern was not quite enough. Now, we're standing by. The Space Shuttle Challenger exploded 72 to 75 seconds after launch this morning. No indication that any of the 7 American aboard survived. President Reagan has postponed his scheduled plans for the State of the Union address, which was to have happened tonight. The White House first said the president would go ahead with it, but now the president has decided to postpone it until next Tuesday, the State of the Union address. The president will be talking to Americans sometime later on today or this evening about what the White House calls this tragedy. We do not have time or details on that yet, but CBS News intends to carry that live if at all possible. We are now waiting for NASA's first news conference of today, really the first official word from NASA today about what happened and why. That will be upcoming at 3:30 Eastern Time, just inside a half hour from now. That is the situation. Here's what we're going to do in case you've joined us late or have been away. In case you want to get someone into the room, we're going to try to go from the top with what we would call a kind of mini newscast inside our live coverage here. First, we're going to show you a tape of what happened this morning at the launch at Cape Canaveral. Then we're going to show you some reaction. First, the tape of what happened.
8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Now control. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading downrange. Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles. Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go at throttle up.
Challenger, go at throttle up. 1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
This is not an automation. This is a videotape of this morning's coverage of the space launch and then the explosion and disaster with Space Shuttle Challenger. Some 1,200 students at the Concord, New Hampshire High School gathered this morning to watch the launch of the Space Shuttle. Their social studies teacher, Christa McAuliffe, was on board, and the mood was jubilant.
6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now we have a short film clip showing school teacher Christa McAuliffe, first when Vice President Bush announced her selection last July as the first private citizen to be a space shuttle passenger. Later, Mrs. McAuliffe of Concord, New Hampshire, and the mother of two, underwent training in the long preparation for today's flight. At a news conference, she talked about her experience.
One of the things that I hope to bring back into the classroom is to make that connection with the students that they too are part of history, that the space program belongs to them, and to try to bring them up with the space age.
This is part of the training course that Mrs. McAuliffe received, among other things, to build up her physical strength. Now this more of the training that anyone who goes on a space mission must take to deal with the weightlessness in outer space. Unfortunately and tragically, this was this morning. Boarding the bus to go to what proved to be the ill-fated Space Shuttle Challenger. Mrs. McAuliffe was a social studies teacher in Concord, New Hampshire, and was selected from more than 11,000 teacher applicants to be the first to fly on the shuttle. She was to have taught two 15-minute lessons on the fourth day of the mission. It was to be carried live by public broadcasting, and hundreds of schools have planned to tune in. Now, of course, those plans have been dashed with the tragedy of Space Shuttle Challenger, which, as you know by now, exploded shortly after liftoff this morning at Cape Canaveral. As we pointed out before, among the purposes of this space mission were to have been, in no particular order, to release and retrieve one satellite to study Halley's Comet, and then to launch another satellite from the cargo bay of the space shuttle to become part of the space-based shuttle communications network. That was the mission of the Space Shuttle Challenger, which is not to be because of this explosion shortly after launch this morning. Of the 7 Americans who were aboard today's Space Shuttle Challenger included Francis Dick Scobee, the commander, man in charge, Air Force Major, 46 years old, born in Washington State. Pilot, his co-pilot, Michael Smith, age 40, United States Navy, from Morehead City, North Carolina. 36-year-old Judith Resnik, PhD, mission specialist, born in Akron, Ohio, has been looking forward to be America's second NASA person into space who is female. She talked about how she looked forward to this trip, following in the path of Judy Ride, the first American woman in space. Also aboard today, 35-year-old Ronald McNair, PhD from Lake City, South Carolina, mission specialist. And from Hawaii, United States Air Force Major and mission specialist for NASA, 39-year-old Ellison Onizuka. From Detroit, 41-year-old Gregory Jarvis, the payload specialist, the man in charge of those satellites that were to be thrown out of the cargo bay. And 37-year-old Christa McAuliffe from Concord, New Hampshire, the school teacher who was selected to be aboard this flight. Dr. Thomas O. Paine, former NASA administrator and now chairman of the National Commission on Space, has joined our friend Leo Krupp in our newsroom in Los Angeles. Dr. Paine, I'm sorry it has to be under these circumstances. What special perspective and context, if any, can you give us about this terrible thing that's happened today?
Well, of course, we all share this great feeling of loss and tragedy, not only for the crew members, but particularly for their families. These are all very dedicated professionals, people of great courage, and it is a very tragic day for everyone in the NASA family.
Dr. Paine, it's no secret there's been a lot of talk among NASA people themselves, the pressure that has been put on the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to produce and to achieve. There have been delays, they got behind schedule. The pressure was real, it existed. How great was it today, and how big a factor could it have been in what happened this day?
Well, of course, it's too early to really understand precisely what went wrong, but you're dealing here with probably the finest engineering organization in the world. There's a great deal of telemetry that is associated with these missions. I'm sure that in the press conference at 3 o'clock, we'll hear the first results of NASA's analysis, but it's my guess that it will be probably months before we really can pinpoint the cause of this tragedy.
Excuse me, NASA's news conference will be at 3:30 this afternoon Eastern Time. That would be at 2:30 Central Time. And we're waiting at the moment for that NASA news conference to begin. Dr. Payne, you've been, as the former NASA administrator and now the chairman of the National Commission on Space, you've been involved with the Space Administration and space exploration for these many years.